The white hallway of Lenox Hill Hospital gleamed under fluorescent lights, sterile and cold, echoing only the rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor nearby. Lily Carter, 7 months pregnant, held her belly gently, waiting for her turn at the ultrasound room. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but exhaustion. The stress from her crumbling marriage to Brandon Hale, heir to the Hale Industries empire, had begun to seep into every part of her being. She sat quietly, scrolling through her phone, glancing at a sonogram photo saved as her wallpaper. "Mommy's little fighter," she whispered. But peace never lasts long in the world of the rich, especially when money masks cruelty. From the corner of the corridor, 2 women appeared, perfectly styled, draped in luxury. Victoria Hale, Brandon's older sister, billionaire and power broker on Wall Street, strutted toward her in a fitted Dior coat, heels clicking against the tile. Beside her was Sloane Reed, Brandon's mistress, young, confident, with a smug smirk painted under red lipstick. The pair looked like they'd just stepped out of a Manhattan gala, not a hospital. Well, Victoria's voice sliced the silence. "Still pretending to be part of this family?" Lily froze, her heart pounded. "Victoria, please, I'm here for a checkup." Sloane tilted her head, feigning concern. "How brave, still clinging to a man who doesn't love you." The word stung, but Lily didn't answer. She clutched her belly tighter, instinctively protective. Victoria leaned closer, perfume sharp and overwhelming. "You're an embarrassment, a charity case who thought she could climb into the Hale dynasty by having a baby." "Stop," Lily murmured, trying to step away. Her back brushed the cold wall. The hallway seemed to shrink. Sloane's grin widened. "Oh, come on, Victoria. She can't even stand up for herself. No wonder Brandon—" "Don't," Lily said, voice breaking. But before she could finish, Sloane shoved her shoulder lightly, mocking her fragility. Lily stumbled, feet sliding, her heel twisted on the polished floor. Victoria, cold and impatient, kicked Lily's ankle to help her balance. But the blow was deliberate, sharp, cruel. Lily gasped, falling hard on her side. Pain shot through her stomach. She screamed, one hand clutching her bump. For a second, everything blurred. The lights above, the echo of her cry, the faint gasp from a nurse at the desk. "Victoria!" Sloane whispered, startled. "You kicked her." "Shut up!" Victoria hissed. "She slipped." Lily's world spun. Pain radiated from deep inside. "My baby," she whispered. "Please, my baby." At that moment, an older man turned the corner. Tom Carter, Lily's father. A retired firefighter, gray hair messy, eyes burning with fear. "Lily!" he shouted, rushing forward. He knelt, shaking as he held his daughter. Blood stained the white floor. "What did you do to her?" Victoria lifted her chin. She tripped. Tom's voice roared through the corridor, raw and broken. "You lying devil!" He fumbled for his phone, hands trembling, dialing 3 digits he hadn't called since his firefighting days. 911, emergency. My daughter's been attacked. She's pregnant, at Lenox Hill Hospital. The nurse rushed to assist, shouting for a gurney. Security guards appeared, radios crackling. One began filming for evidence on his iPhone. Victoria stepped back, pale now, realizing the scene had witnesses. Sloane clutched her handbag, eyes darting toward the exit. Lily whimpered softly as medics lifted her onto the stretcher. Tom followed, tears streaking his weathered face. As the stretcher rolled away, the corridor filled with the wail of an approaching ambulance, a sound Victoria would never forget. Outside the hospital window, New York glowed beneath the night sky, oblivious to the storm about to erupt among the city's elite. Because that single act, a careless, brutal kick, would soon unravel an empire, expose every lie, and ignite a war for justice that no amount of money could silence. And as the red lights of the ambulance reflected off the glass doors, one truth became clear. This was only the beginning. The emergency room pulsed with noise, the sharp rhythm of monitors, hurried footsteps, and the metallic clink of stretchers being wheeled past. Yet inside Lily's small hospital room, everything felt muted, like the world had been wrapped in glass. She lay there, pale and trembling, clutching her belly. Her baby still moved, faint but alive. A doctor with gentle eyes spoke softly. "Mrs. Hale, your baby's heartbeat is steady, but there's internal bruising. You need to rest and stay under observation." Lily nodded weakly, eyes filling with tears. "Is my baby safe?" "For now, yes," he replied. "But stress could trigger early labor. You must stay calm." How could she stay calm? The image of Victoria's cold face and Sloane's smirk replayed like a cruel loop. The sound of her father shouting still echoed in her head. Tom sat beside her now, gripping her hand, his knuckles white. "They're saying it was an accident," he muttered bitterly. "An accident? She kicked you, Lily." Lily stared at the ceiling. "Dad, please, I don't want more trouble." Tom looked at her in disbelief. "Trouble? They could have killed your child." The door opened. Brandon Hale entered, expensive suit immaculate, his Rolex catching the light. He smelled of cologne and anxiety. Behind him, a hospital security guard watched closely. Brandon sighed heavily. "Lily, I came as soon as I heard." "What the hell happened?" Tom stood up immediately. "You tell me, son. Your sister and your mistress just attacked my daughter." Brandon's face stiffened. "That's ridiculous. Victoria called me. She said Lily slipped." "Slipped?" Tom's voice cracked. "There are witnesses, for God's sake." Brandon ignored him and turned to Lily. "Honey, you know Victoria. She wouldn't hurt you. Maybe emotions got out of hand, but calling the police? Do you realize what this could do to the family?" Lily's lips trembled. "To the family? Brandon, I almost lost our baby." Brandon exhaled sharply, rubbing his forehead. "Look, I'll handle this. Just don't make it worse by filing charges. We can settle it quietly." Tom's jaw tightened. "Quietly? You mean cover it up?" "Dad, please," Lily whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Not now." Brandon crouched beside her bed, his expression softening, rehearsed sympathy. "I'll fix everything. Just trust me." But even as he spoke, Lily saw his phone light up with a message from Sloane. "She won't say anything, right?" Her heart cracked. Outside, the nurse, Elena Park, lingered near the door, pretending to check paperwork. She'd seen the whole thing in the hallway. Her hands shook as she held the clipboard, replaying the sight of that cruel kick, the sound of Lily's cry. When Brandon stepped outside to take a call, Tom turned to Elena. "You saw it, didn't you?" Elena hesitated. "Sir, I can't say too much yet, but yes, I'll make sure the report includes what happened." Tom's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you, miss." Meanwhile, Brandon whispered angrily into his phone, pacing the hall. "Victoria, you can't talk to anyone. Tell Sloane to stay quiet. No police, no press." From inside the room, Lily could hear every word, her stomach twisted. Moments later, 2 hospital security guards entered. "Ma'am, we've taken initial statements. The police will arrive soon to file an official report." Brandon froze. "Wait, who called them?" Tom's voice thundered. "I did." Brandon's eyes flashed. "You made a mistake." "No," Tom said firmly. "I made the right call. Nobody hurts my daughter," and walks away. Lily turned her head toward the window. The Manhattan skyline glowed against the night, indifferent to her pain. A single tear slid down her cheek as she whispered, "I'm done being silent." Outside, the faint wail of another ambulance echoed in the distance, but this time, it wasn't fear that gripped her. It was resolve, because in that cold hospital room, surrounded by betrayal and lies, something inside Lily changed forever. She would no longer be the quiet wife. She would be the woman who fought back. The shrill echo of sirens outside Lenox Hill Hospital sliced through the midnight air as 2 NYPD officers rushed through the sliding doors. Their boots hit the polished floor with heavy certainty, their radios crackling with static. The hallway where it happened was still taped off. A single drop of dried blood near the bench whispered the truth no one wanted to face. Tom Carter stood guard near Lily's door, arms crossed, fury carved into every line of his weathered face. When the officers approached, he lifted his chin. "I'm the one who called. My daughter was attacked. She's 7 months pregnant." Officer Ramirez, a broad-shouldered man in his 40s, flipped open a notepad. "Sir, please walk me through what happened." Tom's voice shook with restrained rage. She was standing right there, waiting for her ultrasound. Victoria Hale and that other woman, Sloane Reed, came in and started attacking her with words, then with hands. My daughter fell. They kicked her. The younger officer, Daniels, frowned. "Do we have any witnesses?" Before Tom could answer, a quiet voice came from behind them. "I saw it." It was Nurse Elena Park, still in her scrubs, her hair tied in a loose bun. She clutched a clipboard like a shield. "I was at the reception desk when I heard shouting. I looked up just as Mrs. Hale fell. There was contact. Victoria's foot hit her ankle." Officer Ramirez nodded slowly. "Thank you, ma'am. We'll need your statement and a copy of the hospital security footage." Elena hesitated. The footage is stored on a closed system. I can request the security department to preserve it immediately. Tom's eyes softened slightly. Please, do it before anyone tries to make it disappear. Elena nodded, hurrying off toward the staff wing. Moments later, Brandon Hale appeared, looking sharp even in crisis. His tailored suit untouched, his expression cold. He carried his Mont Blanc pen in one hand, signing a document as he spoke into his iPhone. Yes, Victoria, don't talk to anyone until my lawyer arrives. I'll handle this. When he looked up, the officers were already facing him. Mr. Hale, Ramirez said evenly, we need your statement regarding an alleged assault involving your wife. Brandon exhaled slowly, pretending calm. Alleged, officer. My wife had an emotional moment. She tripped. That's all. Tom's voice boomed down the hall. You call that a trip? You weren't even here. Sir, please, Ramirez intervened. Let's stay calm. He turned back to Brandon. We'll still need to view the CCTV footage and interview your sister and Miss Reed. Brandon's eyes flickered. That won't be necessary. My family will handle this privately. Ramirez's expression hardened. It became public the moment 911 was called, sir. The tension was suffocating. The quiet hum of the hospital machines mixed with the sound of pens scratching over police forms. Daniel snapped a photo of Lily's medical chart for the report. Inside the room, Lily sat propped against pillows, pale but steady. Her hand rested protectively over her belly. She looked up when Tom entered again. Are they gone? Not yet, he said softly. They're taking statements. Dad, her voice broke. I'm scared. Tom brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. You don't have to be anymore. You're not alone. A knock on the door interrupted them. Elena stepped inside, clutching a printed form. Mr. Carter, Officer Ramirez, I got it. The hospital's legal department has officially preserved the footage from Corridor C. They can't erase it now. Ramirez's eyes met Tom's. Good work. That video will tell us everything. Brandon appeared again in the doorway, face tight. You can't take that footage without a warrant. Ramirez slid a document toward him. Already signed, Mr. Hale. For the first time, Brandon's composure cracked. You're making a huge mistake. No, Tom said, voice low but steady. The only mistake was thinking your money could bury the truth. As the officers packed up, the hum of the printer filled the silence. Ramirez signed the first incident report with his Mont Blanc pen, his handwriting deliberate. Assault on a pregnant woman, suspects Victoria Hale and Sloan Reed. Outside, the rain began to fall softly over Manhattan. The lights from ambulances reflected red against the glass walls of Lenox Hill, a haunting glow of justice beginning to stir. Inside the hospital room, Lily closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she didn't feel powerless. She whispered to her unborn child, "We're safe now, baby. They can't hurt us anymore." But in the hallway, Brandon's phone buzzed again, a message from Victoria. We need to make that footage disappear. And that single text would become the thread that unraveled everything they tried to hide. High above the Manhattan skyline, in a penthouse overlooking Park Avenue, Brandon Hale poured himself a glass of scotch. The city below glittered like a field of diamonds, but his reflection in the window looked darker, heavier. Behind him, Victoria Hale stood by the marble bar, pacing in her silk robe. The air reeked of money, fear, and denial. We're in trouble, Brandon, she said sharply. Do you have any idea what's trending on social media right now? Someone leaked that your pregnant wife was kicked in a hospital hallway. They're calling me a monster. Brandon turned, jaw tight. And what exactly did you expect? You did kick her, Victoria. Victoria's eyes flashed. I was defending this family's name. She's been manipulating you from the start. Pretending to be fragile, innocent, so you'd pity her. That's not love, Brandon. That's strategy. He slammed his glass onto the counter. Strategy? She almost lost our baby because of you. The silence that followed was thick. From the corner sofa, Sloan Reed crossed her legs, her Dior heels tapping the glass table. You both need to relax, she said coolly. The police have no proof. They'll call it an accident, and your lawyers will clean up the mess, like always. Victoria shot her a glare. You shouldn't even be here. You're the reason this happened in the first place. Sloan smirked. Really? Because your temper and a hospital security camera seem to be the real reason. Victoria grabbed her phone, scrolling frantically. My attorney says the footage hasn't been released yet. We can still make it disappear. Brandon shook his head, walking toward the window. You don't understand. That footage is under police custody now. Deleting it would mean obstruction of justice. Sloane leaned back, her smile fading slightly. Then we'd better hope it never leaks to the press. A moment later, Brandon's phone buzzed. A notification from Bloomberg Business. The headline froze his blood. Hale Industries under scrutiny after assault allegations against family members. His hand trembled. It's already affecting the company. Investors are pulling out. Victoria snatched the phone. It's just noise. I'll make a statement, something clean and polished. Say I was trying to help her stand and she slipped. Don't, Brandon snapped. Anything you say now could destroy us. Victoria's expression hardened. I built this empire, Brandon. You think you can stop me from protecting it? Sloane laughed under her breath. Empire? Please, without your father's money, you're just a bully with a private elevator. Watch your mouth, Victoria hissed, stepping closer. Oh, don't worry, Sloane said, standing up, eyes narrowing. I've got more to lose than you. If I go down, so does your brother, and I have the texts to prove it. Brandon turned sharply. What texts? Sloane smiled sweetly. You should check your phone, sweetheart. She strutted toward the door, her heels echoing like a countdown. When she left, Victoria muttered through gritted teeth, You let your mistress record you, you idiot. Brandon rubbed his temples. I didn't know. She said it was just between us. Victoria poured herself another drink. Then we're all screwed. Just then, a notification pinged on the massive wall-mounted MacBook Pro. The family's shared cloud alert. A new email had arrived from NYPD Evidence Management. The subject line read, Video footage preserved by court order. Brandon's face went pale. They've confirmed the footage, Victoria whispered. Who requested it? He opened the message slowly. The sender, attorney Maya Brooks. A lawyer he didn't recognize. She's representing Lily, he said quietly. They're building a case. Victoria's glass slipped from her hand, shattering across the marble. The sound echoed like a verdict. Brandon stared out the window again, Manhattan's lights flickering below like embers. If that footage goes public, it's over, he muttered. No, Victoria said coldly. It's not over until I say it's over. She turned toward her brother, her eyes burning with defiance. You fix your wife, I'll fix the rest. And in that room of glass and lies, the Hale empire began to crack. Not from the outside, but from within. The hospital room was quiet now, except for the faint hum of the city beyond the glass. Manhattan glowed like a sleepless heart, pulsing through the night. Lily lay half awake, listening to the steady rhythm of her baby's heartbeat on the monitor beside her bed. Every beat was proof that life, fragile and fierce, refused to give up. Her father, Tom, sat in a chair by the window, sipping cold coffee from a paper cup. The deep lines on his face looked sharper under the pale hospital light. You should have told me earlier, he said quietly. Lily turned her head. Told you what? That he was cheating. That his sister was treating you like garbage. You've been carrying this alone. Lily swallowed hard, eyes glistening. I kept hoping he'd change, Dad. Every time he lied, he'd bring flowers, say he was sorry. I wanted to believe him. I thought love was supposed to be forgiveness. Tom sighed heavily. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone break you. The clock ticked past midnight. Rain tapped gently against the window, and the scent of antiseptic filled the air. Lily felt her heart ache, not just from the pain in her body, but from the memories. I remember the first time Victoria insulted me, she said softly. At their family dinner on Fifth Avenue. She looked at my shoes and said, Cute. Where do you shop, Target? Everyone laughed, even Brandon. That's when I realized I didn't belong in their world. Tom's eyes softened. You don't need their world, honey. You've got your own. A knock on the door startled them. A tall man in a navy suit stepped inside, sharp jawline, calm eyes, a familiar face. Ethan Ward? Lily blinked, surprised. He smiled gently. Hey, Lily. I came as soon as I heard. Ethan was her boss, the CEO of the Ward Foundation, a charity for displaced families. He was known in New York for his quiet power and clean reputation, a man whose handshake meant something. Tom stood up, cautious. You're the guy from her office? Yes, sir, Ethan said, setting his briefcase on the table. I'm not here as your boss tonight. I'm here as a friend, and as someone who knows how ruthless the Hales can be. Lily frowned. You know them? Ethan nodded. My foundation once partnered with Hale Industries. Let's just say I learned quickly that they don't play fair. If you're going to fight them, you'll need help. Real help. Tom crossed his arms. What kind of help are we talking about? Ethan opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I called a lawyer tonight. Her name's Maya Brooks. Smart, tough, and she's not afraid of billionaires. She'll meet you first thing tomorrow. Lily stared at the folder, unsure. I don't have money for lawyers. Ethan smiled slightly. You don't need it. She owes me a favor. Besides, the truth is priceless. Tom nodded approvingly. I like this guy. Lily bit her lip. Brandon will try to bury everything. He has connections. And so do I, Ethan interrupted gently. Let me handle the noise. You focus on getting better. He reached into his pocket and placed a sleek black iPad on the bedside table. This has a secure line to Maya. She's already filed a preservation request for the CCTV footage. It can't be deleted now. Lily's eyes widened. Already? Ethan's voice softened. You're not alone anymore, Lily. Not in this. Outside, the rain fell harder, washing the city in streaks of silver light. Tom exhaled for the first time in hours. The weight in the room began to shift, fear turning into something else. Hope. Lily brushed a tear away and whispered, Thank you, Ethan. He gave a small nod and looked toward the window, where the lights of Park Avenue shimmered in reflection. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow, we start fighting back. And as the thunder rolled across Manhattan, Lily realized the storm wasn't her enemy anymore. It was her warning shot. The empire that hurt her was about to fall. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets of Manhattan slick and glistening under the pale winter sun. Outside Lenox Hill Hospital, cabs honked and steam rose from the grates. Life moved on, even when yours stood still. Inside, Lily Carter sat up in bed, her hand resting on her belly, feeling the soft flutter of movement. Her father slept in the chair beside her, exhausted but unwilling to leave. A soft knock came at the door. A woman in a dark gray suit entered, confident but kind-eyed. She carried a slim leather briefcase and a quiet authority that filled the room. Mrs. Carter? She asked, voice calm but firm. I'm Maya Brooks. Ethan sent me. Lily nodded, still weak but composed. Please, call me Lily. Maya smiled gently and pulled a chair close to the bed. Then call me Maya. How are you feeling? Tired, Lily admitted, scared, but determined. That's a good start, Maya said, opening her briefcase and sliding out a neat stack of documents. Let's talk about what we're dealing with. I've reviewed the initial police report. The footage from the hospital hallway is officially preserved under a court request. No one can delete it without committing a felony. Tom stirred awake, rubbing his eyes. Good, because I don't trust those people as far as I can throw them. Maya nodded. You're right not to. Victoria Hale's legal team already tried to reach the hospital's administration last night, claiming the incident was a family misunderstanding. Luckily, the preservation order went through an hour earlier. Lily's eyes widened. So they were really trying to cover it up. They always do, Maya said simply. That's how the rich protect themselves. But they made one mistake. This time there were witnesses. And we have Nurse Elena Park's written statement. That's our foundation. Lily looked down at her hands. What happens now? Maya leaned forward, her tone shifting from gentle to razor-sharp. Now, we go on offense. Step 1, a restraining order against Brandon, Victoria, and Sloan. Step 2, a criminal charge for assault on a pregnant woman. And Step 3, we open a civil case for emotional and physical damages. Tom raised an eyebrow. You can do all that, Maya smirked slightly. It's not my first billionaire case. For a moment, silence filled the room. The weight of her words sank in. This was real now. There was no going back. Lily hesitated. Won't Brandon fight this? He'll try to destroy me. Maya nodded. Of course he will. That's why we have to stay 3 steps ahead, and luckily your prenup gives us leverage. My prenup? Lily blinked in surprise. Yes, Maya replied, flipping through a document. You signed it before marriage. There's a clause about infidelity and abuse. If proven, Brandon forfeits his share of marital assets and future inheritance rights from the Hale Trust. Whoever drafted this contract didn't think you'd ever read it carefully. Tom whistled softly. Well, isn't that poetic justice? Lily's eyes glistened. I never even noticed that part. Maya smiled faintly. That's why you hired me. She closed the folder with a firm snap. Now, there's one more thing. The press is circling this story. Ethan's handling communications, but if a reporter approaches you, say nothing. Let the truth come out through the right channels. Lily nodded slowly. Understood. Maya stood, smoothing her jacket. Rest for today. Tomorrow I'll bring you the court papers to sign. And Lily? Yes? Maya's gaze softened. You're not just a victim. You're about to become the woman who proved that no amount of money can bury the truth. As she left, the morning sun slipped through the blinds, casting stripes of light across Lily's bed. Tom squeezed his daughter's hand. You hear that, kiddo? You're gonna win this. Lily smiled weakly, whispering, For my baby, I have to. And somewhere across the city, in a glass tower on Park Avenue, Brandon Hale's phone buzzed with a new headline. One name glowing in bold. Attorney Maya Brooks takes on the Hale family. 2 days later, the chaos began quietly. Not with lawyers or shouting, but with whispers and headlines. Manhattan woke up to news flashes on every digital screen across Park Avenue. Pregnant wife of business heir assaulted in Lenox Hill Hospital, family denies allegations. The Hale name, once untouchable, was suddenly under fire. Inside his office at the Ward Foundation, Ethan Ward stared at his MacBook Pro, scrolling through the feeds. Lily's story was spreading fast, faster than any press team could control. But that was the point. This wasn't about publicity, it was about truth. He picked up his phone and called Maya. The storm's here, he said. Maya's voice came through crisp. Good, let's make sure it doesn't drown her. At the same time, in her hospital bed, Lily watched the news with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Her face wasn't shown, only blurred images of the hospital and a quote from the police report. Witness confirms physical contact. She turned to her father, who was sipping his morning coffee beside the window. They're really talking about me, she whispered. Tom nodded slowly. You're not invisible anymore, kiddo. Just then her phone buzzed, an unknown number. A text appeared. Stop this before it's too late. No name, but she didn't need one. She knew that tone. Victoria. Her stomach tightened. She showed the message to Maya when she arrived that afternoon. Maya read it, frowning. Classic intimidation tactic. I'll add it to our file. Every message counts as harassment now that the restraining order is pending. Lily looked uneasy. They'll just deny it. Of course they will, Maya said. But denials can't stop evidence. Meanwhile, in a downtown coffee shop, Ethan met with a journalist from the New York Ledger. He'd known her for years, a woman who'd exposed more than one corporate scandal. Off the record, Ethan said carefully, I can confirm that the footage is real and protected under court order. I can't share it, but I can tell you the victim is under medical care and cooperating fully. The journalist leaned forward. And the attackers? Let's just say their lawyers are very busy, Ethan replied, taking a calm sip of his espresso. By noon, Twitter was ablaze. Hashtags like Justice for Lily and Protect the Unborn were trending. Public sympathy shifted sharply in Lily's favor. For the first time, the Hale family's empire felt vulnerable. Not from the stock market, but from the people. At Hale Industries headquarters, Victoria threw her phone across her desk. They're turning me into a villain, she shouted. We have to issue a statement. Brandon looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. No statement, it'll only feed them. Let me talk to Lily. She'll listen. Sloane, lounging in a chair with a smug grin, said, You think she'll listen after what we did? Wake up, Brandon. She's got lawyers now. Because of you, Victoria snapped. Sloane shrugged. Because of you, she shot back. Their fight was interrupted by Brandon's phone vibrating again. He looked down and saw the headline. Anonymous insider. Hale family tried to delete hospital footage. His face drained of color. Who leaked that? Victoria's voice trembled. They're playing chess, Brandon. We're the pawns. Back at the hospital, Ethan arrived just as Maya was finishing her visit. He brought a small gift bag. A lavender blanket from Tiffany's, embroidered with tiny initials. Elsie. Lily smiled weakly. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Ethan said softly. Something to remind you what we're fighting for. She traced the initials with her fingers, tears welling up. Everything feels like a war. It is, he said. But not every war is fought with guns. Some are fought with truth and patience. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. The city lights spilled through the blinds, painting gold lines across the floor. She stared at the Tiffany blanket and whispered to her unborn child, We're going to win this. For you. Across the city, in a penthouse filled with silence and shattered glass, Victoria Hale scrolled through the viral posts, her breathing uneven. She had built her life on control, money, power, reputation. But none of it could stop what was coming next. Because once the world starts watching, even the mighty can't hide their sins. The chandeliers of the Plaza Hotel sparkled like captured stars, their golden light falling over a room full of Manhattan's elite. Crystal glasses chimed, violins played softly, and conversations buzzed about stocks, charity, and gossip. It was supposed to be a calm evening, a business dinner to repair the Hale family's reputation. But beneath the polished marble and expensive perfume, the tension was sharp enough to cut glass. Brandon Hale adjusted his cufflinks, forcing a smile as he greeted investors and old friends. "Good to see you, Roger." "Yes, just a misunderstanding. The media always exaggerates," he said, shaking hands while sweat glistened on his neck. Across the table, Victoria Hale was a storm hiding behind a smile. Her diamond necklace shimmered under the light, but her eyes were cold. She leaned toward her brother and whispered, "Smile, Brandon. If people see fear, they'll smell blood." Brandon clenched his jaw. "The only thing they'll smell is scandal if you don't stop talking." Sloane Reed arrived fashionably late, dressed in a backless silver gown. Photographers outside had already caught her walking in, ensuring her picture would be on every gossip site by morning. "Sorry I'm late," she purred, sliding into her seat. Traffic on Fifth Avenue was murder. Victoria glared at her. "You shouldn't even be here." "Oh, relax," Sloane said, pouring herself champagne. "The more we act normal, the faster this dies down." But as she raised her glass, a man in a black suit entered the ballroom. His eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on Victoria. Then he walked straight toward her. The man handed her a sealed envelope. "Miss Hale, you've been served," he said quietly. Every head at the table turned. The envelope was marked New York Supreme Court. The entire room seemed to freeze. Brandon's face went pale. "What the hell is this?" Victoria ripped it open with trembling fingers. Her eyes darted across the papers, then she slammed the folder shut. "Restraining order," she hissed. "Filed by Lily Carter." Sloane laughed nervously. "You're kidding," Victoria snapped. "She's playing dirty." Brandon exhaled sharply. "Not dirty, smart." Meanwhile, in a corner booth across the room, Maya Brooks and Ethan Ward watched the entire scene unfold. Ethan's suit blended perfectly with the crowd. He looked like just another investor. But his gaze was sharp, focused. Maya whispered, "Delivery confirmed. The cameras from the Plaza security are backing it up." Ethan nodded. "Good. Public and legal in one move. That'll hit every financial headline by morning." At the main table, Victoria's anger boiled over. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping across the marble. "I'm not taking this humiliation," she growled, her voice shaking. "My lawyer will crush her." Brandon grabbed her arm. "Sit down, Vic. You're making it worse." "I'm saving us?" she snapped. "You think I'll let that little nobody destroy our name?" All eyes turned toward them. The room, once filled with polite conversation, now hummed with whispered judgment. Sloane sipped her champagne slowly, smirking. "Congratulations, Victoria. You've officially made tonight's headlines." Across the ballroom, Maya quietly handed Ethan a USB drive. Full copy of the Plaza's security feed, evidence of public aggression just in case. Ethan slipped it into his pocket. Let her dig her own grave. Back at the table, Victoria finally sat down, trembling. "They won't win," she whispered. "We have money, lawyers, power." Brandon looked at her, eyes hollow. None of that helps when the truth's on video. As dessert arrived, untouched, creme brulee glowing under candlelight, the buzz of conversation returned. But now, everyone was whispering about them. About the Hales. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Maya and Ethan exited through the side entrance of the plaza, avoiding the reporters clustered at the front. Maya exhaled, finally smiling. One public scene. That's all it takes to turn sympathy into outrage. Ethan looked up at the glowing sign of the Plaza Hotel, the symbol of wealth and arrogance. "They wanted to play this in public," he said quietly. "Now the public gets to watch them fall." Back inside, Victoria's hand trembled as she poured another glass of champagne. Her reflection in the crystal was distorted, powerful, but fragile. For the first time, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Fear. Because that envelope at the plaza wasn't just paper. It was the first crack in the mirror that had always hidden her sins. The marble halls of the New York County Courthouse felt colder than the December wind outside. Reporters lined the steps, cameras flashing as Maya Brooks guided Lily carefully past them, one hand on her shoulder. Lily wore a simple navy dress, her baby bump visible beneath a soft coat. She looked fragile, but her eyes told a different story. They were steady, unblinking. Ethan Ward followed behind with Tom Carter, both men silent, protective. "Keep your head high," Tom whispered to his daughter. "They can't break you if you don't let them see fear." Inside, the courtroom buzzed with quiet chaos. Lawyers shuffled papers, journalists whispered into phones, and the Hale family's legal team, 5 attorneys in tailored suits, filled the defense table. Brandon sat at the center, his posture tense, eyes downcast. Beside him, Victoria whispered furiously to her lead attorney. Sloane Reed sat behind them, her sunglasses hiding puffy eyes. When Lily entered, the room went still. The judge, a sharp woman in her 50s named Judge Ramirez, looked over the file. Case 4278, Carter versus Hale. Petition for restraining order and assault charges. Are all parties present? Yes, Your Honor, Maya replied, her voice calm and commanding. The opposing lawyer, a tall man named Daniel Price, stood. Your Honor, my clients, Victoria Hale and Sloane Reed, maintain that this was an unfortunate accident. Emotions were high, but there was no intent to harm. Maya rose smoothly. Intent or not, the law doesn't excuse violence against a pregnant woman. She placed a folder on the desk, sliding copies toward the judge. Here is Nurse Elena Park's sworn statement, the police report, and the hospital's medical record confirming bruising consistent with a kick. Victoria's jaw clenched. Brandon leaned forward, whispering something to his attorney. Judge Ramirez adjusted her glasses. Do we have video evidence? Maya nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Footage from Lenox Hill Hospital hallway, time-stamped 8:42 p.m., preserved by court order. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Even Brandon's attorney seemed caught off guard. Victoria whispered harshly, You said the footage was gone. Brandon's face went pale. I told you it was locked by the police. Enough, the judge interrupted sharply. Play the footage. A projector flickered to life. On screen, the silent black and white video showed the hallway. Lily stood, clutching her stomach. Then came Victoria and Sloane. Voices unreadable, but gestures unmistakable. The shove, the stumble, the kick. Lily's fall. Even without sound, the violence spoke louder than words. Murmurs filled the room. Victoria's lawyer froze. Brandon looked like he wanted to disappear. The judge exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on Victoria. Miss Hale, would you like to explain this? Victoria swallowed hard, her voice trembling. She tripped. I was trying to help her up. The judge's tone turned icy. By kicking her? Laughter rippled quietly from the audience before the bailiff barked. Order. Maya didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She simply said, Your Honor, the footage is self-explanatory. We ask for a full restraining order and permission to pursue criminal assault charges. The judge nodded. Request granted. Effective immediately, Miss Hale and Miss Reed are prohibited from contacting or approaching Mrs. Carter in any capacity. Mr. Hale, she turned to Brandon, you are listed as a witness and potential accomplice. I suggest you cooperate fully. Brandon looked like a man caught between two worlds, loyalty and guilt tearing him apart. As the gavel struck, reporters bolted for the doors, ready to send headlines flying. Outside, the cold air hit Lily's face like a baptism. Cameras flashed, questions flew, but for the first time she didn't hide. She faced them head-on, standing beside Maya and Ethan. Mrs. Carter, a reporter called out, How do you feel after seeing the video? Lily paused, her voice steady. I feel the truth matters more than money. Tom smiled proudly beside her. Ethan glanced at her, admiring the courage behind that calm tone. Across the street, from the tinted window of a Mercedes S-Class, Victoria watched it all. Her hands shook around a champagne flute she hadn't touched. She'd spent her whole life believing she was untouchable. But that illusion had just shattered under courtroom lights. And as the headlines hit every screen in New York, one truth spread faster than money could contain. Even the powerful bleed when the truth cuts deep. The Hale penthouse on Park Avenue had never felt so quiet. Normally, its walls buzzed with the hum of staff, the soft thrum of classical music, and the faint aroma of imported orchids. Tonight, though, it was dead still, like the calm before an explosion. Brandon Hale sat at the long marble dining table, untouched steak cooling on his plate. He loosened his tie and stared at the headlines glowing from his iPhone. Hale family faces criminal charges. Victoria Hale under fire after shocking court footage. Another notification flashed. Stock plummets 12% overnight. He shut off the screen, rubbing his temples. We're losing everything, he muttered. From across the room, Victoria stood by the window, a glass of wine trembling in her hand. No, she said sharply. We are not losing. We are reclaiming control. Brandon laughed bitterly. Control? You just got banned from contacting my wife. You're trending as the kicking heiress. There's no control left. Victoria turned slowly, her face pale but furious. Do you think I'm afraid of public opinion? I've rebuilt this family's image before. I'll do it again. Sloane Reed walked in from the balcony, her silver dress replaced with a casual sweatshirt. Even in her discomfort, she was stunning, but her confidence had cracked. You can't fix this, Victoria, she said softly. Everyone saw the video, it's done. Victoria glared at her. You shouldn't even be talking to me. You're as guilty as I am. Sloane folded her arms. At least I didn't try to delete evidence. Don't drag me down with you. Brandon slammed his hand on the table. Enough. You're both acting like children while our company bleeds. Victoria's expression shifted. Then act like a man, Brandon. Step up and fix it. He stared at her in disbelief. Fix what? My wife almost lost our baby because of you. You destroyed everything. For a moment, silence swallowed the room. Then quietly, Victoria said, she was never one of us. Brandon froze. You kicked her because she wasn't born rich? Victoria's voice wavered but didn't soften. You married a woman beneath your name. I warned you, she'd ruin you. Sloane smirked faintly. Well, that prophecy came true, just not how you planned. Victoria's eyes flashed. Shut your mouth. Sloane tilted her head. Or what? You'll kick me too? The tension snapped like glass. Victoria threw her wine glass against the wall, red liquid splattering across a painting worth more than most houses. Brandon pushed back from the table, disgusted. You're insane. Victoria's voice cracked. I'm saving this family, Brandon. Everything our father built. Our father built it on integrity, he cut in, and you burned it down with arrogance. He grabbed his jacket from the chair, pocketed his Mercedes keys, and started for the door. Where are you going? Victoria shouted. To face what's left of my life, he said bitterly. Maybe to do something right for once. Sloane followed him to the elevator. Brandon, wait. He stopped, but didn't turn around. Don't. You've already done enough. When the elevator doors closed, Sloane stood there staring at her reflection. Her phone buzzed. A text from a blocked number. Testify, and we'll reduce your sentence. Her throat tightened. For the first time, she realized the only person who could save her now was the one she'd helped destroy. Inside the penthouse, Victoria stood alone among the mess. The shattered glass, the spilled wine, the fading glow of the skyline. She picked up her Cartier bracelet from the floor and stared at it. Her reflection fractured in its surface. Outside, Manhattan glittered coldly, indifferent to her fall. Meanwhile, downtown, Maya sat in her small office with Ethan, reviewing the next legal steps. They'll break soon, Maya said. Pressure always makes the powerful implode. Ethan nodded, scrolling through his laptop. And when they do, Lily won't just win in court. She'll win back her name. At that same moment, in her hospital room, Lily held her baby bump, whispering to herself. He's losing everything, but I'm finally getting something back. Peace. And while the Hales empire began to rot from the inside, Lily Carter, the woman they tried to crush, was quietly rebuilding her world, brick by honest brick. Snow flurries danced through the air as morning light spilled across the courthouse steps. The second hearing of Carter vs. Hale was scheduled for 9 a.m., and every news outlet in New York City had gathered to watch. Reporters huddled in coats, microphones ready. The once invincible Hale family had become front-page scandal, and the world was hungry for more. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Maya Brooks sat beside Lily, flipping through a stack of files with calm precision. Remember, she whispered, today isn't about revenge. It's about truth. Stay composed no matter what they say. Lily nodded, hands clasped over her belly. Her pregnancy was entering its 8th month, and though she looked delicate, there was a new strength in her eyes. Her father, Tom, sat behind her, wearing his old firefighter jacket, his silent reminder that courage runs in their blood. The courtroom doors swung open. Brandon Hale entered first, looking thinner, older, his usual confidence replaced by quiet panic. Behind him came Victoria, dressed in black, chin lifted in defiance, and Sloane, pale and trembling, eyes hidden behind sunglasses. The air grew thick as the three took their seats at the defense table. Judge Ramirez entered moments later, her gavel striking once. Court is now in session. The first witness called was Nurse Alina Park. She walked to the stand, straight-backed, her ID badge still clipped to her scrubs. Maya approached her with a reassuring smile. "Miss Park, can you describe what you saw the night of the incident?" Elena took a deep breath. "I was working the reception desk. I heard shouting. When I looked up, I saw Mrs. Carter near the wall. Miss Victoria Hale and Miss Sloane Reed were standing close to her. Then," she hesitated, glancing toward Victoria, "then I saw Miss Hale's foot connect with Mrs. Carter's leg. She fell hard." A ripple of gasps spread through the courtroom. Victoria clenched her fists under the table, nails digging into her palms. Maya nodded gently. "Thank you, Miss Park. Was there any attempt to help Mrs. Carter after she fell?" Elena shook her head. "No. Her father arrived moments later and called 911. The others left." "Left?" Maya repeated. "Yes, they walked away while Mrs. Carter was crying on the floor." That silence weighed heavy on everyone in the room. Even Brandon lowered his head, shame flickering across his face. Maya turned toward the judge. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit the hospital's incident log and the nurse's signed report as additional evidence." "Accepted," Judge Ramirez said firmly. When it was the defense's turn, Victoria's lawyer rose. Miss Hale acted in a moment of confusion. She meant to assist Mrs. Carter, not harm her. Maya smirked faintly. "Then why walk away afterward?" The lawyer faltered. "It was chaotic." "Not chaotic enough to forget basic humanity," Maya interrupted, her tone steel. The gallery murmured in approval. Then the judge turned to Sloane. "Miss Reed, you were also present. Do you wish to testify?" Sloane hesitated. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently, but Sloane's hands trembled. Finally she stood. "Yes, Your Honor, I do." Brandon and Victoria both turned to her, horrified. Sloane's voice shook. "I can't lie anymore. I saw it." Victoria kicked her. "Brandon wasn't there. He came later." Victoria slammed her hand on the table. "You little snake!" "Order!" the judge barked, striking the gavel. Sloane's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. I should have stopped it. I thought it would go away. But it didn't. It's haunted me every night." The courtroom exploded in murmurs. Maya glanced at Lily, whose eyes were wide, stunned. The judge leaned forward, her tone grave. "This changes everything. The court will review this testimony and consider additional charges for obstruction of justice." Victoria's face turned ashen. She slumped back in her chair, her empire crumbling one truth at a time. Outside, as the session adjourned, reporters swarmed the exit. Maya shielded Lily as flashes lit the steps. Tom kept close, his arm firm around his daughter. Ethan met them at the car, his eyes fierce. "You just won the day, Lily," she smiled faintly. "Not the war yet." Ethan nodded. "No, but this is where the tide turns." Across the street, Brandon stood watching, face pressed to the tinted window of a black Mercedes. For once, he wasn't angry. He looked broken. And inside that courthouse, the first crack in the Hale dynasty became a fracture too deep to ever repair. Snow blanketed the city that night, covering Manhattan in a quiet stillness that felt almost deceptive. But inside Maya Brooks's small midtown office, the atmosphere was electric. Stacks of files, legal pads, and half-empty Starbucks cups crowded the desk. The air buzzed with revelation. Lily sat beside Maya, wrapped in a soft beige coat, hands resting protectively over her belly. She looked tired but calm, her eyes following every page that Maya flipped open. Tom sat on the couch, his firefighter's jacket folded neatly on his lap. Across from them, Ethan Ward leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, tension in every line of his posture. "Okay," Maya began, tapping a document spread across the desk. "This, right here, is where it gets interesting. Your prenup agreement." Lily frowned. "I remember signing that before the wedding. Brandon said it was just to protect the company's assets." Maya nodded. "That's what he told you. But what he didn't expect was that it also protects you." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "How so?" Maya smiled faintly, flipping to a highlighted section. Clause 12b. In the event of proven infidelity or domestic misconduct, the non-offending spouse shall retain sole ownership of all joint marital property, as well as access to Hale trust allocations designated for family welfare. In simple terms, if Brandon cheats or harms you, you get everything. Lily blinked, stunned. He put that in himself? His lawyer did, Maya explained. Probably to make it seem generous, never thinking you'd need it. They underestimated you. Tom grinned for the first time in days. Guess their fancy words finally turned on them. Maya turned another page. It gets better. Brandon and Sloane exchanged messages during the time you were already pregnant. Those messages prove infidelity and intent to conceal it. I subpoenaed phone records yesterday. They came in this morning. She slid over a printed text log. Ethan leaned in to read. One message from Brandon to Sloane stood out in bold. Don't worry, Lily won't find out. Once the baby's born, I'll handle things my way. Lily covered her mouth. He said that while I was carrying his child? Her voice cracked, and Tom reached for her hand, squeezing gently. Maya's tone softened. I know this hurts, but this message gives us leverage, financial and legal. You don't just have the moral high ground anymore, you have the law. Ethan exhaled slowly, his eyes burning with quiet anger. He deserves to lose everything. Maya nodded. He will, but we'll do it by the book. First, we freeze his joint assets. Then, we petition to audit Hale Industries' trust fund transfers to Sloane. That alone could be considered misappropriation. Lily shook her head slowly. All this time I thought I was the weak one, but he's the one who built everything on lies. You just needed someone to remind you of your strength, Maya said gently. The door buzzed. An intern stepped in with a brown envelope. Delivery from the courthouse, Miss Brooks. Maya opened it and scanned the first page. Her eyes widened. It's official. The judge just approved the preliminary freeze order on Hale joint accounts. They can't touch a dime without court approval. Tom let out a low whistle. Well, how's that for karma? Ethan smiled faintly, glancing at Lily. This is the beginning of your freedom. But Lily's mind was elsewhere. What about the company? If their accounts are frozen? Maya met her eyes. The board will panic, investors will turn. Brandon's empire will start to collapse from the inside. Lily sat back, feeling the first wave of justice wash through her. For months she had felt powerless, voiceless. But now the tide had turned. Outside, the snow continued to fall, soft and relentless, covering the city that had once looked down on her. Maya closed the folder with a decisive snap. Tomorrow, we file for separation and asset division under the prenup clause. By the end of the month, the Hales won't just be broke, they'll be exposed. Ethan stood, buttoning his coat. I'll handle the press. You handle the paperwork. Lily smiled faintly. And I'll handle being strong. As the lights of Manhattan flickered against the snow, Lily realized something powerful. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers through the sound of papers being signed. The Hale Tower loomed over Midtown like a monument to arrogance. Inside its top floor, Victoria Hale sat at her glass desk, eyes bloodshot, hair pulled back tight. The once unshakable queen of Manhattan finance now looked cornered. The curtains were drawn, the city hidden behind a storm of headlines flashing across her tablet. Hale accounts frozen, prenup clause exposed. Across the room, Brandon paced like a caged animal, tie undone, phone clutched in his hand. The board's panicking. They think I leaked something. Stocks dropped another 8% this morning. Victoria didn't look up. You did leak something. Your stupidity. Brandon stopped pacing. Don't start. She snapped the tablet shut and glared at him. I warned you not to marry her. I told you she'd find a way to destroy us, but you were too busy playing the good husband. Brandon rubbed his face. You kicked her, Victoria. Not me. You dragged us into this mess. Her voice rose, trembling with rage. Don't you dare blame me. You were cheating on her while she carried your child. That's what made this possible. You handed her the weapon. The room went silent, except for the ticking of a Cartier clock on the wall. Outside, thunder rumbled. Brandon threw his phone onto the couch. We can still fix it. There's got to be a way to make that footage disappear. Victoria froze. You're serious? He nodded. I know someone in our IT department, Ryan Kim. He handles our data servers. If we can get into the hospital's digital archive, we can delete every trace of the original file. Victoria stood slowly, the glimmer of her old ruthlessness returning. And how do you plan to convince him? Brandon grabbed his wallet, pulled out a black Amex card and tossed it on the desk. Money. The same way we've always made things go away. For a moment, Victoria hesitated. But greed and desperation won. Do it tonight, before that lawyer Maya files anything else. Hours later, the storm hit. Rain hammered the city as Brandon pulled up to a nondescript office building in Chelsea. Ryan, a nervous young technician, met him in the dimly lit server room. "I shouldn't be doing this," Ryan muttered, glancing over his shoulder. "Tampering with police-preserved evidence? That's prison time." Brandon slipped an envelope across the desk, thick with cash. "You'll never have to worry about money again." Ryan stared at it, then sighed. "Give me the case number." As Brandon handed over the file, Ryan logged into the secure database. Lines of code streamed across the screen. "Almost there," he murmured. "Just need to override the court lock." Suddenly the screen froze. A red alert flashed. "Unauthorized access detected. System lockdown." Brandon's pulse spiked. "What happened?" Ryan paled. "Someone's monitoring the file. They've set up a live tracker. Any tampering gets reported directly to the district attorney." Brandon's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up his screen. "Nice try. Evidence integrity confirmed." Maya. Panic ripped through him. "Shut it down. Delete the log." "It's too late," Ryan said, voice shaking. "They'll trace this to you." Brandon stumbled back, heart pounding. "You don't understand. If that footage stays, we're finished." Ryan shoved the envelope back. "Then you are finished." Brandon fled into the rain, jacket soaked, headlights glaring off the wet pavement. He gripped the steering wheel, his world spinning out of control. Every lie, every betrayal, now recorded forever. Back in her penthouse, Victoria waited for his call. When her phone finally rang, she snatched it up. "Well?" Brandon's voice cracked. "They caught me." Her breath caught. "What do you mean, caught you?" "They knew. They were watching the system. It's over, Vic. We're done." For the first time, Victoria's confidence shattered completely. She sank into her chair, staring at the city lights through streaks of rain. Meanwhile, across town, Maya watched her monitor flicker green, confirmation that the evidence remained intact. She smiled faintly. "I knew they'd try it." Ethan glanced over. "You set a trap?" "Always do," she said. "People like the Hales can't resist digging their own graves." At that same moment, Lily sat by her apartment window, a warm blanket around her shoulders, the Tiffany baby blanket folded neatly beside her. She didn't know about Brandon's failed attempt, not yet, but somehow she felt a weight lift. Outside, the storm began to quiet, because every time the guilty tried to erase the truth only burned brighter. Morning broke gray over Manhattan, heavy clouds smothering the skyline. The Hale Tower, once a symbol of power and perfection, now looked like a tomb. Glass walls reflecting the headlines plastered on every screen in the city. Hale family faces criminal probe. Insider confirms attempt to destroy evidence. Brandon Hale's office was chaos. The sound of phones ringing and assistants crying echoed down the marble corridor. Boxes of shredded files piled up against the wall. The company's logo, gleaming silver letters spelling Hale Industries, now seemed like a monument to failure. Brandon stood by the window, gripping the railing, his reflection hollow in the glass. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he whispered. His voice cracked. "I built this. I worked my entire life for this." "You built it on lies," said a voice behind him. He turned. It was Ethan Ward, standing tall in a charcoal suit. Security had escorted him up after the board requested an emergency meeting. Ethan, as a former partner in several philanthropic projects, was now acting as a consultant during the crisis. Brandon's eyes narrowed. You think you've won?" Ethan's tone stayed calm. "No one wins in something like this." "But the truth does." Brandon scoffed. "You and that lawyer? You think you're heroes? You're just opportunists. You're using Lily to ruin me." Ethan stepped closer. "You ruined yourself when you betrayed her, when you betrayed your child, and when you tried to erase what you did." Brandon's hands shook. "You don't understand what it's like to have everything crumble in one day." Ethan's eyes softened for a moment. "Actually, I do. I lost everything once, but I didn't lie to get it back." The door burst open. Victoria stormed in, hair unkempt, eyes wild. "The board's forcing a vote," she shouted. "They're removing us from the executive team." Brandon blinked. "What?" She slammed a folder onto his desk. "They froze the accounts. Every trust, every fund. They're selling off our shares to cover legal fees. The empire's gone." Sloan appeared behind her, quiet, ghost-like. "And it gets worse. The DA's office called me. They're opening a criminal obstruction case against both of you." Victoria spun. "You're testifying, aren't you?" Sloan hesitated, then nodded. "I'm cutting a deal. I told them everything." Brandon stared at her in disbelief. "You're selling me out to save yourself?" Tears welled in Sloan's eyes. You already sold me out the day you lied to everyone, including me. Victoria lunged toward her, but Ethan stepped between them. Enough. The world already knows the truth. Fighting each other won't change what you did. Victoria froze, trembling with fury. You think you can lecture me? You're just another man who wants to see a woman fall. Ethan's voice hardened. No, Victoria, I'm a man who finally saw one stand up. She glared at him, but her words faltered. For the first time in her life, she realized no one feared her anymore. The board members were outside, whispering, avoiding her eyes. The kingdom she ruled through fear had turned its back. Brandon dropped into his chair, face buried in his hands. It's over, he muttered. Everything's gone. Ethan straightened his tie. No, not everything. You still have a chance to tell the truth. If you cooperate with the DA, maybe they'll go easier on you. Victoria laughed bitterly. The truth? You think that matters now? Ethan looked at her steadily. It always matters. It's the only thing that survives when everything else collapses. Outside, thunder rolled again, a low, endless sound like the city itself was mourning. Ethan turned to leave, but paused at the door. One last thing, he said quietly. Lily doesn't hate you, Brandon. She just doesn't believe in you anymore. And that's worse than hate. When he was gone, the room fell silent. Victoria stood frozen, mascara streaking her face. Sloane backed away slowly, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Brandon stared out the window one last time. The city below looked smaller now, indifferent. And in that moment, he finally understood what true loss felt like. Not the loss of wealth or status, but of the people who once saw him as human. Because when an empire falls, it doesn't crumble from the outside. It collapses from the weight of its own sins. The night after the Hale Empire began to crumble, the city outside Lily's window seemed quieter than usual. Snowflakes floated down through the glow of Manhattan's streetlights, melting on the glass before disappearing, soft, silent, fleeting. Inside her small apartment on the Upper East Side, the air was calm for the first time in months. The baby's crib sat ready in the corner, assembled by Tom and Ethan the night before. A Tiffany blue blanket, the one Ethan had given her at the hospital, was neatly folded at the edge. On the coffee table lay an open book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, a gift from Maya. Lily had been reading it between contractions of fear and waves of hope. Tom emerged from the kitchen with 2 mugs of tea. Can't believe it, he said, sitting beside her. They're finally paying for what they did. Lily smiled faintly. Feels unreal. I used to think justice was something that only existed in movies. Tom chuckled. Sometimes it just needs a stubborn daughter and a smart lawyer. She laughed softly, the sound small but real, and a dad who never gave up. They sat quietly for a moment, the warmth of the tea filling the space between them. Then Lily spoke again, voice lower. Dad, do you think people like them ever realize how much damage they cause? Or do they just keep pretending? Tom looked out the window, watching the snow swirl over the city lights. People like the Hales build walls so high they forget there are hearts on the other side. They'll realize it when those walls start falling and they're standing in the rubble alone. Lily nodded slowly, letting his words sink in. For the first time, she didn't feel powerless. The fear that had once lived in her chest had been replaced by something stronger. Resolve. A soft knock came at the door. Ethan stood there, snow dusting his coat, a gentle smile on his face. Didn't mean to intrude, he said, stepping inside. I brought something. He handed her a small paper bag. Inside was a tiny plush bear and a folded letter. Lily looked up, curious. What's this? Something I wrote, Ethan said quietly. For your baby, for when he's old enough to understand courage. Tom smiled knowingly. You two talk, I'll clean up. He retreated to the kitchen, humming softly. Lily unfolded the letter. The handwriting was careful, almost too neat. To the child of the bravest woman I've ever met, your mother taught the world that silence doesn't equal weakness. That truth, when spoken with kindness and courage, can shake the walls of the powerful. Be proud of her. Her eyes blurred with tears. Ethan, this is beautiful. He shrugged gently. You inspired it. You turned pain into strength. That's something no court verdict can ever measure. She smiled, brushing away a tear. You sound like you've been through this before. Ethan's expression darkened slightly. I lost someone once because I was too afraid to stand up. Watching you fight reminded me what real bravery looks like. For a long moment they just sat there, the city glowing behind them, the snow falling like forgiveness. Lily took a deep breath. Tomorrow, Maya files the final petition. After that, I guess it's really over. Ethan shook his head gently. No, tomorrow isn't the end, it's the start of something new. She looked at him, smiling softly. You really believe that? I do, he said, because when you rebuild your life on truth, it doesn't matter how long it takes, it'll stand forever. Tom returned from the kitchen, grinning. Well, looks like someone just gave my daughter a new philosophy. Lily laughed through her tears. Maybe he did. Ethan stood to leave, glancing once more at the crib. You'll make an incredible mother, Lily. She watched him go, heart warm for the first time in what felt like years. When the door closed, she turned toward the window again. The city shimmered below, alive and endless. She pressed a hand against her belly and whispered, We made it, little one. We're going to be okay. Because in a world built on greed and deceit, nothing shines brighter than a woman who decides she's had enough and rises anyway. The day of the final hearing arrived like a quiet storm. No thunder, no lightning, just a heaviness in the air that told everyone something irreversible was about to happen. The New York County Courthouse stood under a pale winter sky, its marble steps dusted with snow. The crowd outside was smaller this time, but the cameras were sharper, hungrier. They all knew this would be the day the truth went public. Inside courtroom 4B, the tension was thick enough to feel. Reporters whispered in the back row. The sound of shuffling papers filled the silence. Lily sat at the plaintiff's table, wearing a simple cream dress that stretched over her 8-month belly. She looked peaceful, almost angelic, but her eyes were steady, unflinching. Tom sat behind her, his hands clasped, jaw tight with pride. At the other table sat the remnants of the Hale dynasty. Brandon, pale and gaunt, Victoria, motionless, her lawyer whispering frantically beside her, and Sloane, visibly shaking, clutching a tissue in one trembling hand. Judge Ramirez entered, gavel striking once. Court is now in session for final review of evidence in Carter v. Hale. Maya Brooks stood, calm as ever. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to present one final piece of evidence. Exhibit 23B. Victoria's lawyer immediately objected. We've already seen the video, Your Honor. Maya raised a hand. This isn't the same footage. This is the enhanced version. The full recording recovered from the hospital's security archive. The judge nodded. Proceed. The lights dimmed slightly as a projector flickered on. The screen at the front of the courtroom glowed to life, black and white, time-stamped 8:42 p.m. At first it was familiar. The hallway, the sterile walls, Lily standing near the door holding her stomach. But then, something new. An additional camera angle, one the defense hadn't known existed. This one was closer, clearer. The golden frame? It showed everything. Victoria's face twisted in anger, her leg lifting, the sharp kick to Lily's ankle, the fall, the cry, the moment Sloane froze in horror. The camera captured Victoria's expression afterward, cold, almost satisfied. A wave of gasps rippled through the room. Even the court reporter stopped typing for a moment. The video ended, freezing on the frame. Victoria's shoe midair, Lily collapsing, Tom rushing into view seconds later. Maya let the silence stretch before she spoke. Your Honor, this frame alone proves intent. There was no stumble, no accident. There was violence, there was arrogance, and there was absolute disregard for life. Victoria's lawyer muttered, We dispute authenticity. Maya cut him off. You can't. The metadata has been verified by the NYPD cyber unit. The original server logs show an attempted deletion 5 days after the incident, traced directly to Hale Industries' private network. Brandon's head dropped into his hands. Judge Ramirez's voice was low, cold. So not only was there assault, but also an attempt to destroy evidence. Sloane stood abruptly. It's true, she said, her voice breaking. Victoria told him to do it. She told Brandon to erase it. I was there. Victoria's face drained of color. You liar, she shouted. You're just trying to save yourself. The judge slammed the gavel. Order. Sloane turned to the bench, tears streaming. I can't live with it anymore. I lied. I let it go on too long. Maya looked at her softly. Thank you for telling the truth, Miss Reed. The judge leaned forward. This court finds sufficient evidence to escalate the assault charges to aggravated assault with intent to cause harm. A warrant will be issued for obstruction and tampering with evidence. Victoria's jaw trembled. You can't do this to me. The judge stared down at her. You did this to yourself. As the gavel struck one final time, flashes exploded from the hallway outside. Reporters scrambled to deliver the verdict to the world. Lily exhaled slowly, a single tear slipping down her cheek. Tom leaned forward, whispering, "It's over, sweetheart. You did it." Maya touched Lily's shoulder gently. "No. She did it." Across the aisle, Brandon watched his wife rise and walk out of the courtroom, her posture straight, her hand over her belly. A woman not broken, but reborn. Outside, the snow fell again, soft and endless, coating the courthouse steps in white. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar. It appears quietly, in one golden frame that captures not just a crime, but a woman's courage to stand against it. The courthouse was silent as the verdict was read. Every breath, every heartbeat seemed to echo between the marble walls. Judge Ramirez's voice cut through the air, firm, steady, unyielding. The court hereby finds the defendants, Victoria Hale and Sloan Reed, guilty of aggravated assault against Mrs. Lily Carter. Additional charges of evidence tampering and obstruction are confirmed against the Hale family estate. The words hung like thunder. The courtroom erupted. Reporters whispered furiously, cameras clicked, and gasps filled the air. Victoria stood frozen, her face drained of all color. For the first time in her life, she looked small. The designer suit, the diamonds, the power, none of it mattered now. Her hands shook as the bailiff approached. "Miss Hale, please surrender your phone and any personal devices." She hesitated, eyes darting to Brandon. "Do something." But Brandon couldn't move. His lawyer whispered something to him, but the words fell flat. He just stared ahead, defeated. Sloan sobbed quietly, hands clasped together. "Please, I didn't mean." The judge silenced her with a look. "Intent is irrelevant when your actions cause harm. You will both serve time. The exact sentence will be decided at the final hearing next week." As the bailiff led them away, Victoria's eyes met Lily's. There was no apology in them, only disbelief that someone she had called beneath her had brought her to her knees. Lily didn't gloat. She didn't speak. She simply held her head high, one hand over her stomach, the other clutching Tom's arm. Outside, the courthouse steps were a blizzard of flashbulbs. Reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Carter, how do you feel? Will you press civil charges? What do you want to say to the Hale family?" Lily paused, looking out at the sea of microphones and flashing lights. Her voice, when it came, was soft but clear. "I just wanted peace. I never wanted revenge. I only wanted the truth to be seen." Tom smiled proudly beside her. Maya Brooks stood a few steps away, speaking to the press with her usual composed authority. "Justice isn't about wealth or status," she said. "It's about accountability. Today we proved that no amount of money can hide the truth forever." Ethan Ward, standing behind them, caught Lily's gaze. There was pride in his eyes and something deeper, respect, admiration. As the crowd thinned, Maya leaned close to Lily. "The civil trial is next. Once the assets are liquidated, you'll receive the settlement. But after that, this chapter ends. You can finally live your life." Lily nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "For my child, that's all I ever wanted." Meanwhile, across the city, the once mighty Hale Tower was nearly empty. The board of directors had resigned. Shareholders demanded answers. Investigators moved through the glass offices, collecting files, seizing computers. The empire that had taken decades to build was crumbling in a single winter week. Brandon stood alone in his office, staring out over a city that no longer belonged to him. His reflection in the window looked like a ghost. The golden logo on the wall, Hale Industries, had already begun to come down, letter by letter. His phone buzzed with a message from his lawyer. "Court has ruled asset forfeiture begins Monday." He didn't answer. He couldn't. For the first time, he understood what Lily had meant when she said truth mattered more than money. He whispered to himself, "She was right." Downstairs, Victoria sat in a holding cell, silent, stripped of everything that once made her powerful. The fluorescent light flickered above her. In her mind, she replayed that single moment in the hospital, the kick, the scream, the blood. And for the first time, guilt began to crawl through her chest. Outside, snow kept falling over Manhattan, soft and steady, washing the city clean. That night, Lily sat by the window of her apartment, cradle in her stomach. The city below glittered like a new beginning. Tom snored softly on the couch, exhausted but content. She whispered to her unborn child, "We did it. Justice isn't loud, It's quiet, but it lasts. And for the first time since that terrible night, she allowed herself to believe in something again. Because when justice finally comes, it doesn't scream for vengeance, it simply restores what should have never been broken. The sky over Manhattan was painted in pale gold when the contractions began. Lily woke before dawn, clutching her belly, a sharp wave of pain coursing through her. For a moment, she thought it was a dream, another echo of fear from the past months. But then the second wave hit, stronger, undeniable. She gasped. "Dad! Dad, it's time!" Tom bolted upright from the couch, eyes wide. "Now? Oh God, okay, I've got you." Within minutes, the apartment turned into a flurry of motion. Tom helped turn her into her coat while fumbling for the hospital bag. "Maya said she'd keep the car ready," he muttered, voice trembling. "We'll make it in time." By the time they reached Lenox Hill Hospital, the world outside was still half asleep. Snowflakes swirled in the early light, and the city seemed to hold its breath. The same hospital where she had been broken months ago was now where she would bring new life into the world. Inside, nurses rushed to meet them. "Mrs. Carter, we've got your room ready," one said warmly. Lily gripped her father's hand as another contraction hit. "Don't leave me, Dad." "Not for a second," Tom promised. The hours blurred together. Beeping monitors, soft footsteps, the sterile scent of antiseptic, all too familiar, yet different this time. This time, she wasn't afraid. Maya arrived just before sunrise, carrying a small bouquet of white roses. "I heard," she said softly, smiling. "How are you feeling?" "Like my body's declaring war," Lily breathed out, half laughing, half crying. Maya chuckled. "You've fought bigger battles. You'll win this one too." Ethan appeared moments later, breathless from running up the stairs. "I came as soon as Tom called," he said. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. Tom patted his shoulder. "You might as well stay. She's too stubborn to do this quietly." Another contraction tore through Lily, and she gripped the bed rails, sweat beading on her forehead. "Ethan," she gasped. Don't let me give up." He leaned in close, voice calm and steady. "You faced worse than this, Lily. This isn't pain, it's strength trying to be born." She managed a shaky laugh. "You sound like one of those motivational podcasts." He smiled. "Then it's working." Hours passed. The city outside grew brighter, sunlight glinting off the snow-covered rooftops. Nurses moved in quiet rhythm, their voices calm and practiced. The doctor finally arrived, checking Lily's vitals. "You're almost there," he said. "One more push, Mrs. Carter." Lily clenched her teeth, tears streaming down her cheeks. She thought of everything. The betrayal, the fear, the humiliation, the nights she cried herself to sleep. Every breath of pain now felt like it was pushing that darkness out of her, replacing it with light. Tom held one hand, Ethan held the other. Maya stood behind them, her eyes glistening. "You're not alone," she whispered. Lily took one last deep breath. "For you, my baby," she said, and pushed. The room filled with the sound of a newborn's cry, sharp, beautiful, alive. Lily collapsed back onto the bed, sobbing with relief and joy. "Is he okay?" The doctor smiled. "Perfectly healthy. Congratulations, Mrs. Carter, it's a boy." Tom laughed through his tears. "A boy? You hear that, sweetheart? You did it." The nurse placed the baby gently on Lily's chest, his tiny fingers curled around hers, soft and warm. She stared at him, unable to speak. Ethan stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "He looks like you." Lily smiled weakly. "Then he's already stronger than anyone I know." The baby stirred, a soft coo escaping his lips. Outside the window, sunlight spilled over the skyline, turning the city gold. Tom kissed his daughter's forehead. "You brought light back into this world, Lily." She closed her eyes, exhausted but peaceful. Maybe the world was waiting for him all along. Ethan stood beside her, watching the morning light bathe mother and child. For the first time since the chaos began, everything felt still, pure, quiet, complete. Because sometimes the end of one story isn't destruction, it's the beginning of another. Written in the cry of a child and the strength of a woman who refused to fall. 2 weeks after the birth, the winter sun returned to New York, softer, warmer, as if the city itself was breathing again. In Lily's small apartment overlooking Central Park, peace had finally taken root. The chaos was gone. No reporters, no courtrooms, no shadows of fear, just the soft hum of a new life. The baby slept soundly in his crib, wrapped in the Tiffany blue blanket. Tom sat nearby, rocking gently in an old chair, humming an old country tune. Lily stood by the window, watching the light stretch across the snow. For the first time in months, she could breathe without feeling pain in her chest. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message from Maya. The civil settlement is finalized. You officially own the townhouse on East 74th, and the trust fund has been transferred. You're free, Lily. Lily smiled softly, tears filling her eyes. Free. It was the first time she'd heard that word and believed it. Ethan arrived soon after, carrying 2 cups of Starbucks coffee in a small bag. Delivery for the strongest woman in Manhattan, he said, smiling as he stepped inside. Tom chuckled. Careful, son, that title might go to the little guy soon. Ethan grinned and handed Lily the coffee. How's he doing? Perfect, she whispered, glancing at the crib. He sleeps like he owns the place. Good, Ethan said. Because technically, he kind of does. Lily laughed softly. You know, I used to think freedom meant money. Now I realize it's just waking up without fear. Ethan nodded, setting the bag on the table. That's why I brought this. She peeked inside. It was a sleek silver MacBook Air and a small notebook embossed with her name, Lily Carter Foundation. What's this? She asked, confused. Ethan leaned against the counter. Your story changed lives, Lily. Maya and I have been talking. People reached out after the trial. Women who went through the same kind of abuse. They need a voice. You could give them one. Her lips parted in surprise. You mean a foundation? He nodded. To help women fight back. Legal aid, emotional support, safe housing. We'll fund it through donations. I'll cover the startup cost. Tears filled her eyes. Ethan, I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said softly. Say you're ready to turn pain into purpose. Tom smiled from his chair. That's the best offer you'll ever get, sweetheart. Lily looked at the laptop again, the words Lily Carter Foundation glimmering under the morning light. She wiped her eyes and nodded. Okay, let's do it. Ethan smiled, a real full smile. Then it settled. As they sat together planning ideas, the baby stirred. Lily walked over, scooping him up in her arms. He blinked sleepily, yawning. She rocked him gently and whispered, You came at the end of everything. But you turned it into a beginning. The moment was broken by the soft buzz of the TV. A news anchor's voice filled the room. Breaking update. Hale Industries files for bankruptcy after losing major contracts. Former CEO Brandon Hale has been subpoenaed in a fraud investigation. Tom muttered, Well, justice keeps on working overtime. Lily sighed quietly. I don't hate him anymore, Dad. He's living the punishment of losing everything he valued more than love. Ethan looked at her, impressed. That's forgiveness, the kind that frees you, not them. She smiled faintly. Exactly. Outside, Central Park sparkled beneath a new layer of snow. Parents pushed strollers, dogs barked, and the city carried on, unaware of the miracle unfolding in one small apartment above. Lily opened her new notebook and wrote the first line for her foundation. For every woman who was told she couldn't, you can and you will. Ethan read over her shoulder. That's powerful. She glanced at him, eyes warm. So is starting over. The baby cooed softly, curling against her chest. Tom leaned back in his chair, smiling through misty eyes. Your mother would have been proud, honey. You found your way back. Lily kissed her son's forehead, whispering, We're home now. Because freedom isn't the absence of pain, it's the courage to build something beautiful from the ruins. Spring arrived slowly in New York. The snow melted into puddles that reflected the skyline, and cherry blossoms began to bloom along Central Park. The world felt lighter, and so did Lily Carter. It had been 3 months since the verdict. 3 months since she'd walked out of that courtroom with nothing but her dignity, and discovered it was worth more than any fortune. Now, as sunlight poured through the tall windows of the new Lily Carter Foundation office, she looked around at what she'd built. The place was small but bright. Cream walls, warm light, and a photo of her baby framed on her desk. Beside it sat a steaming cup of coffee and a handwritten note from Maya. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of many others. She smiled. Outside her door, volunteers answered calls, women shared stories, and quiet laughter filled the halls. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and it was hers. Tom entered, holding the baby in one arm and a tiny blue hat in the other. Guess who's ready for his big debut? He said proudly. Lily laughed. Dad, you can't bring him here every day. Sure I can, he said, grinning. He's the mascot, the reason all this exists. The baby, now a few months old, bright-eyed and curious, reached for her necklace. She lifted him gently, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "You saved me without even knowing it," she whispered. The door opened again. Ethan Ward walked in, dressed in his usual navy suit, holding a manila folder. "Sorry I'm late," he said with that familiar half-smile. "Traffic on Fifth Avenue hasn't changed." Lily teased. "You're always late, Ethan." He shrugged. "Perfection takes time." Tom chuckled, setting the baby's hat on the desk. "I'll take this little one for a stroll. You two have business." As the door closed, Ethan handed Lily the folder. "The first-year sponsorships. 3 Fortune 500 companies want to partner with the foundation. You're officially on the map." Lily's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" He nodded. "Your story inspired thousands. You've turned pain into purpose, Lily. People believe in that." She exhaled, trying to steady the emotion rising in her chest. "I didn't think anyone would listen." "They didn't just listen," Ethan said softly. "They followed." For a moment, silence filled the room, gentle, peaceful. Lily looked out the window at the skyline, the same one that once mocked her from behind penthouse glass. Now it just looked beautiful. "Human." Ethan spoke again, his tone quieter. "There's something else." Brandon reached out. She turned sharply. "What?" "He's working with the prosecutors now. He gave them full access to Hale Industries' financial records. He's trying to make things right." Lily's voice softened. "People can change, but it doesn't erase what happened." "No," Ethan agreed. "But it's a start, and maybe that's enough." She nodded slowly. "For his sake, I hope so." Ethan hesitated. "And for you, what's next?" Lily looked down at her son's photo. "I think I'm finally ready to live, not just survive." He smiled gently. "Then you're already winning." They stood by the window together, watching the sunlight wash over the city. Cars moved below like rivers of light, people rushing, laughing, rebuilding, just like she had. Tom returned a few minutes later, the baby giggling in his arms. "We made friends at the park," he said proudly. "Everyone wanted to meet him." Lily smiled. "He's already famous." "Like his mom," Tom said. She looked at her child, at her father, at Ethan, and felt something she hadn't in years. Wholeness. Ethan handed her the final document for the foundation. "Sign here and the board will officially recognize you as founder and CEO." She picked up her Mont Blanc pen, her hand steady. "CEO," she murmured with a smile. "Never thought I'd hear that again." "You earned it," Ethan said. "Every bit of it." She signed her name slowly, Lily Carter. The ink glistened in the sunlight. Outside, the bells from St. Patrick's Cathedral began to chime. The sound filled the air, soft, hopeful, endless. Lily lifted her baby from Tom's arms and stepped toward the window. "We did it, little one," she whispered. "We turned the ending into a beginning." Ethan stood beside her, his voice quiet. "You showed the world what justice really looks like." She smiled, her reflection shining in the glass. Not the broken woman who once cried in a hospital hallway, but the woman who rebuilt her life with truth, love, and fire. Because in the end, justice isn't just punishment, it's peace. And peace, when earned, becomes the most powerful revenge of all. So, that's how our story ends. But if you're still here, listening until this very moment, maybe something in Lily's journey touched your heart. Maybe it reminded you of something you've been through too. You see, life will always bring pain, betrayal, and loss. But what defines us is what we choose to do after the storm. Lily didn't fight for revenge, she fought for peace. She learned, as Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Healing isn't loud, it's quiet. It's choosing forgiveness over anger, truth over fear, and rebuilding from the ashes with dignity. If you've ever been broken, remember this. You are not your pain. You are the courage that survived it. You are the light that refused to go out. So if this story spoke to you, even a little, give it a like, share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and don't forget to subscribe. Because here, on this channel, we tell stories that remind you that no matter how dark it gets, you can always rise again. Stay strong, my friend. Your new beginning might be closer than you think.